Welcome back to Extra Shot, the most scandalous podcast in sport. My name is Jack Rivlin. Zach Sweeney Lynch is here.
Hello, Jack.
Hello. On the pod today, Emmanuel Petit condemns his former Arsenal coach to death. The Real Madrid star caught smuggling illegal seafood. And the ghost of John Terry returns to haunt Wayne Bridge. Don't worry, John Terry is not dead, despite that headline. How you doing, Zach?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I want to just get straight into it.
Let's do it.
Absolutely nothing to say to you.
Nothing interesting has happened in the past week, to be honest. So.
Let's talk sport. Wayne Bridge. So Wayne Bridge has always maintained a dignified silence over the alleged affair between John Terry, his former best mate, and his ex-girlfriend, Vanessa Peroncel. There was obviously that famous moment where he frostily refused Terry's handshake when City played Chelsea. But apart from that, he's kept very quiet. Unfortunately for Wayne, people remind him about it on a daily basis. So apparently every time he posts on social media, people will joke about it. And he says, every time I walk past a building site, someone shouts, "John Terry!" Which,
I don't know, I feel sorry for Wayne Bridge just because that is the only thing that you think of when you hear the name Wayne Bridge. Like, he had a sustained period of like success in the Premier League, playing for like some of the biggest clubs in the country, and yet the only thing anyone thinks of,
John Terry, fuck your missus.
Yeah, or did not.
Or didn't. We'll come on to whether or not that happened. But Wayne these days is a sort of a bodybuilding boxing type, and he recently made the dubious decision to wade into the grubby swamp of influencer boxing. So he signed up for this fight in March with the over-caffeinated man-child KSI. And, you know, when you sign up for a fight with a guy like that, you should probably know what to expect. And over the weekend, the pair of them squared up for some trash talk. And this is what KSI said to him.
Are you the guy that let John Terry smash your ex?
Oh, you want to go there straight away, dear?
I'm pretty sure that's what you're known for.
Okay, you go there.
Vanessa, whoa! Vanessa, whoa!
29th, you'll find out.
She jumped on Terry's dick.
29th,
It made
you'll find out.
big boy feel sick. Vanessa, whoa! Vanessa, whoa! You really want this?
Wayne Bridge seems genuinely surprised that KSI has brought this up. He's like, "Oh, you're going to bring that up, are you?" It's like, mate, you do realise the only reason that they've got you on Misfits Boxing is because of that one incident. Like, obviously,
That's what people
obviously he's going to bring that up.
Yeah, it's a bit harsh when the crowd start joining in. So you hear them go, "Vanessa, whoa!"
Also, I think Wayne's got to do better there with this comeback.
Yeah, I mean, he's had...
surely, if you know that you're going to be doing like a little face-off in the ring, have a zinger to come back with.
Yeah, you've had 15 years to come up with one. But also, when he booked the fight, surely his people around him were like, they're going to mention it. It's KSI.
Yeah.
Like, surely... And yet he looks surprised. And also he's like, KSI's like, "Yeah, she jumped on John Terry's dick." And Wayne just keeps going, "Yeah, we'll see in March." It's like, we'll see about that. It's like, we'll see about John Terry.
I would love to see John Terry ringside for that fight.
It's obviously all
John Terry just come in with the steel chair.
It is all quite WWE, but even Wayne Bridge, because I haven't looked at him in a while, he sort of looks like, you know, like a video game where like randomly you can wrestle as Wayne Bridge. It sort of looks like what I'd imagine him to be brought back. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that sort of looks like Wayne Bridge.
Yeah. It's like, have you seen pictures of Fernando Torres now?
Yeah, he's stacked.
Fernando Torres is like a steroid junkie.
His head looks really small.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, not only was Wayne not prepared with a comeback, but he must have been really shocked that KSI would bring up this affair, because he's now pulled out of the fight. So he released a statement and he said, "Of course, I expected to face some criticism, but I feel like what was said on Saturday crossed a line." There's more, but firstly,
was he expecting KSI to bring up the time he got run past against Wolves in 2011?
It's like some criticism. You've got a slightly weak left jab. You were never that good at crossing. And John Terry, fuck your missus. It's not criticism. Anyway, he then continued, "My opponent is someone that many children look up to around the world, including my kids. I hope one day he will look back on this differently. I personally don't want to be involved in these exchanges, which, fair enough, although, may I suggest a new role model for your kids?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess because his kids are sort of 17 or something. So that is KSI's prime audience.
Well,
for Wayne, it is getting mugged off by your kid's hero.
Yeah.
On TV is pretty
So
shit,
the kid he has with Vanessa is 17. The other ones are a little bit younger. I mean,
Okay.
I feel sorry for that kid in this instance. Anyway, Vanessa herself waded in then. She posted I think it was on Instagram, she said, sometimes the smallest minds have the biggest mouths. It's quite good.
Yeah.
All the tabloids were like, Vanessa Parancel wades in with cryptic message. Sorry, cryptic.
That's the kind of line Wayne should have come back with.
Yeah.
Really.
Or some like really zen. Because he looks
Yeah.
calm in the video, but, you know.
Clearly he wasn't if he then went backstage and pulled out of the fight.
Yeah, must be seriously shit being in a stadium and people are singing a song about that. Anyway, he may do another fight because this isn't actually his first bout. In 2018, Wayne Bridge fought made in Chelsea's Spencer Matthews. And actually, apparently,
What is this world?
Yeah, I know.
Misfits boxing.
Apparently, he absolutely smashed him from
Yeah.
pillar to post. But yeah, I imagine Spencer Matthews was probably a bit more respectful. Though isn't he meant to be a love rat himself? So watch him.
I couldn't speculate.
Yeah. As you alluded to, Zach, and as we discussed at length on our John Terry pod, not even sure that John Terry actually did sleep with Wayne Bridge's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in camp Vanessa. Vanessa's always denied it. She says that they were just friends, her and Terry. Which
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember exactly. We talked about a lot on our John Terry episode.
So basically, the tabloids-
She was advised by Max Clifford, the like celeb
Disgraced
publicist, and he told her to not say anything afterwards. Which she then afterwards was like, that was an absolute huge mistake because I should have just come out, denied it, like told my side of the story because it genuinely is not true. And the way she's spoken about it, I believe her.
Yeah, and so the News of the World and one of the other tabloids, the Mail, I think, later did a retraction, basically like buried, but it was like, in any case, the story was untrue. And so, yeah, maybe. I mean, all I'd say is, so I came down on your side. I thought, okay, maybe they actually didn't. But then we had quite a lot of DMs from people being like, so what, you think John Terry was just going around her house to play fucking Uno Rummy? That's John Terry. Do you think he just has these friends?
They were family friends, weren't they? Her and Terry and his wife and
Sure, yeah.
Wayne and Vanessa.
Yeah, they lived a few doors apart.
They lived a few
in
doors
Cobham.
apart and they used to hang out a lot. And
But it's, I mean, apparently, so they were close friends and he would go around a lot. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I think there's enough evidence to say we're not sure that they did have an affair, but unfortunately, because of Max Clifford.
You would also think to sort of counter that, play devil's advocate, they could just come out now and really deny it and just clear it all up once and for all. Surely, like
if that more fuel
Vanessa
to it.
and Terry and Wayne.
Because
came
Wayne
out.
Bridge always says like there's loads about that story that people don't know, which kind of makes it sound worse, to be honest. And he certainly doesn't speak to John Terry. Why would he be blanking John and his handshake if they didn't shag?
Yeah, I mean that was straight after it though, so maybe all the facts hadn't come out, and
Yeah.
maybe he also just felt like Terry was his. I'm getting very like Jerry Springer,
Which we hate.
maybe he just felt that Terry going around to hang out with his ex-girlfriend when they were supposed to be best mates was out of order anyway. Whether or not
And
they
to
were
be
shagging.
fair, he did also piss Wayne off with another illicit bonk, which we did talk about. If you haven't listened to our John Terry episode, stop what you're doing right now and listen, because it is an all-timer. It's really good. Like the sort of 7-month spell when he has like 10 different affairs is really something. But anyway, one of these affairs was with this woman called Shalimar Wimble, who, spoiler alert, sold her stories to the tabloids. Great name.
Shalimar Wimble.
Yeah,
That's
hell of a
incredible.
name. Anyway, she told the tabloids this story of when, so John and Wayne, as we said, they lived a few doors apart in Cobham. They were genuinely best mates. And John and Shalimar used to sneak into Wayne's house when he was out so that he could shag without his wife, Tony, knowing about it. And apparently Wayne was cool with this as long as they didn't have sex in his bed. but I don't know if that's true. Anyway, I went through the grubby tabloid archives this week and found the story, which I'm going to read out. So it said, they stripped off and had sex in the lounge, but when Terry took Shalimar upstairs and tried to score again, he ran into trouble. Even so, the exhausted England star managed to find a turn of speed when he heard his pal's Porsche arriving on the drive. Terry ran downstairs naked to collect the couple's clothes while an angry Wayne and his girlfriend waited in the car. And then Shalimar says, I felt so embarrassed about using the house, but John laughed and said we had no choice as we couldn't go to his place. John told me Wayne was fine about us going there on the condition we didn't have sex in his bed. But Wayne didn't exactly look thrilled when he saw our underwear scattered on his sofa downstairs.
Yeah, I'm starting to see why Wayne Bridge doesn't entirely trust John Terry.
He's not a man of his word.
Yeah.
Also, a detail in that I hadn't come across before is the not so subtle reference to Terry not being able to get it up. Did you clock that?
Oh yeah, read it again.
Well, he goes, but when they stripped off, had sex in the lounge, but when Terry took Shalimar upstairs and tried to score again, he ran into trouble. And then they describe him as the exhausted England star. It's like, why does that need to be in this?
Yeah. Is that, yeah.
John and Shalimar met at Naughty's hotspot, China White.
Of course. I feel like China White comes up almost every week on this podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do an episode on
That's a good idea.
the China White era.
Yeah.
All
Is
the
China White still
horrible-
going?
It is, I checked. I had a look at its TripAdvisor where apparently it's not what it was, and there's some suggestions of racism from the door staff. So
Okay.
yeah, wouldn't recommend.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe we need to go down and
Film on location.
or do a little undercover night at China White's, but
Yeah, you want the VIP experience, do you?
not by the sound of that.
You're sort of hoping to bump into Shalimar Wimble.
Yeah, she's still there.
What a name.
So you might recall Pat Rice as Arsene Wenger's key lieutenant at Arsenal. So he was assistant manager under Wenger for 16 years.
Patrice.
Pat Rice, Patrice. These days, Pat is 75 and enjoying a well-deserved retirement. He's just tending his vegetable plot, perfecting his scone recipe. So as he put up his feet with an electric blanket and a mug of Horlicks this week and flicked on Monday Night Football, Pat was delighted to see his old charge, Emmanuel Petit, the former Arsenal midfielder, on punditry duty. And, Pat hadn't heard from Manu for a while, but that bunch of flowers that he'd sent Pat's wife out of the blue was just such a touch of class. And to cap it all off, Petit began to reminisce about Pat Rice himself.
He had some fight sometime with Pat Rice as well. Rest in peace, Pat.
Pat Rice is, of course, alive and well, I'm glad to report. And he apparently, I think this is what happened. He must have phoned up Sky Sports to clarify that he is alive. And David Jones, the presenter, had to issue a clarification on air.
Got some good news. Pat Rice sends his best. He's not actually no longer with us. he's alive and kicking.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Pat.
No, he's alive.
I'm confused with.
Don't worry.
I'm so sorry,
It's
Pat.
a good news story. So that's.
I'm so sorry, Pat. I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
I saw people posting that, the video where Ian Wright meets,
Yeah.
he had that teacher who he loved, whose real influence on him, and he thought was dead, and then they surprise him and he comes up next from behind him and Ian Wright's like, they told me you was dead. Mr. Pigeon. Sydney Pigeon.
That's it, yeah. I love Pat Rice had just come out into the Sky Sports studio.
Hand on Petit's shoulder.
Mr. Rice.
How
They told you were dead.
They told me you was dead. How surreal must that have been for Pat Rice? He's like, I just watched the footy. And then you're like, I'm watching my own funeral.
Do you think he's there just checking his own pulse?
Because Petit's literally like, God rest his soul. Looks to the heavens. At least he said something nice. Imagine if he'd been like, he looked down.
Yeah. For some reason, Petit turned up to this appearance looking like a cross between Legolas and Lucius Malfoy.
Yeah.
So he's obviously always had long blonde hair, which is now greying a little bit, but he's got it pulled right back over his head, Legolas style, and he's wearing a green velvet jacket and a polo neck.
Could be a wizard's cloak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was looking into Petit a little bit more as he
your
came
hero.
up, as he's my hero. And there was a story that I'd never heard about him almost signing for Spurs. So before he joined Arsenal, he was quite advanced talks with Spurs. He had a meeting in London with Sir Alan Sugar, who was
Lord Sugar.
Lord Sugar to you, with Lord Sugar, who was Tottenham chairman in the 90s, and Sir Alan had like given him an offer to sign for Spurs, and Petit was like, I need a bit of time to think about it. So he was like, yeah, no worries. And Spurs booked him a cab back to his hotel so he could think about it. And Petit got into the cab and redirected the driver to Arsene Wenger's house and signed for Arsenal.
That's so good. So Spurs paid for his cab.
Spurs
to Arsenal.
paid, yeah, exactly.
Arsenal fans will love that.
Yeah.
Imagine having contract talks with Alan Sugar.
Yeah, quite weird. I really can't imagine him as a football chairman now. But anyway, obviously he joined Arsenal, became a global star then, like won the Premier League, won the FA Cup, scored in the 98 World Cup final. And he says that after that, he really became like a sex symbol in France especially, and got really into going to swingers parties, where obviously he's like the star attraction, I guess, at these parties. In his autobiography, he wrote, "On my days off, I discovered the parallel world of Parisian nights, private soirees, swapping clubs."
Is a swapping club.
Swapping club is a swingers party, I guess. He also says that he'd get invited to these yacht parties with like Arab sheikhs who he described it as unrivaled debauchery, and said that people going around with like plates of cocaine.
Like silver platters, like
Yeah.
canapes.
Yeah.
Be cool to experience that once, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Life.
he says, I should clarify, he says he never took cocaine, but
What,
it was,
he was
it was
just
available
shagging?
if he wanted to.
Was he just shagging then?
I think so.
Was he sort of like their sort of like not pet, but like sort of like a special guest? It's like, oh look, we've got Emmanuel Petit on our yacht.
Yeah. I feel like that happens quite a lot to
Footballers.
celeb sports stars. Mike Tyson had it in.
Yeah.
Where was he? He was like going around the Med.
With like mafia.
Yeah.
Because you're basically just like a bit of bling to them.
Mm.
Yeah. But it would be cool to go to one of those parties once. Or do you think they're actually really soulless? And
Do you remember we came across an advert on Instagram for? It's basically an advert for Insta hotties.
Oh, yeah.
Someone sent it to us. It was like a DM that they'd received for an invitation to go to a party with the Man City owner, I think it was. And it was like, it was a ridiculous amount of money. It was like 10 grand or something to go there and just look pretty at these parties, basically.
Did we read it out on the pod?
I think so.
Yeah.
It sounded quite grim.
Yeah, I reckon.
Just quite a horrible peep behind the curtain of that world.
Yeah, looking pretty is probably not the limit of
Yeah.
the duties.
Yeah. There's actually another story from Petit's book. He said one time he was staying at a hotel around the corner from Arsenal's training ground, and a girl like came to visit him, and they ended up shagging in the snooker room of this hotel. And he said in his book, "The next morning, the director and his staff welcomed me with applause. They'd been watching on the cameras." Which I first read this as the Arsenal director, which I was then wondering, and the Arsenal director and his staff is like, is that Pat Rice in there?
But or you think it's the hotel
I think it could be the hotel
director, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice
Maybe
story.
Petit was counting his lucky stars that that story had finally gone to the grave with Pat Rice.
Speaking of dirty dogs who've no doubt spent a lot of time in those Parisian clubs, Neymar, it sounds like he's going to leave Saudi. His time in the gilded cage is coming to an end. It hasn't really worked out at Al Hilal because he's been injured so much. And, now a few clubs have been linked with him, including Santos, his boyhood club in Brazil. But obviously it takes a lot to secure Neymar's signature, as Santos know only too well, because when they sold him to Barcelona for 90 million euros in 2014, the fee included unlimited coffees and an orgy for his dad at a swanky London hotel.
Just picturing these contract negotiations where Neymar's like sat outside with the director while his dad is in the hotel room. Yeah, it should be done. It should be done any minute now.
Well, because I don't know if this was embellishment from us or someone else, but didn't
Possibly.
wasn't there talk that he wouldn't sign until the orgy was complete? They're just waiting by the phone.
Yeah.
Finally, like, it's done. I also love that his dad, it's like a genie visited him, was like, you can have 3 wishes. And he's like, okay, unlimited coffees. Definitely that.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would like an orgy in a London hotel. And then he's like, well, you get 3 wishes. Can my son play in one of the great Barcelona teams? Also, like, unlimited coffees feels unnecessary.
Yeah, surely. I'd have thought that was sort of a given in contract negotiations.
Yeah.
Like, if you're halfway through like a £90 million deal, it's like, it's quite fine another coffee. It's like, you are going to have to pay for this.
I'm
one.
going to have to knock the fee down to 89.999. Although, like, famously, there's that Daniel Levy story where when Tottenham bought Luka Modric, Dinamo Zagreb asked for like 20 signed Modric Tottenham shirts, and Daniel Levy sent him an invoice for the shirts, or the invoice
It was
for the
knocked off
transfer fee.
the
It was
knocked off the
fee.
transfer fee.
So it does happen. But anyway, that story comes from the Santos president at the time, who had to testify in court. Anyway, given all that, Santos know that to get Neymar, to prize him away from his miserable Saudi compound, they're going to have to pull out all the stops this time. So, you know, they're probably thinking maybe we could name a stand after him at the stadium, or give him a guaranteed monthly supply of dead-eyed Insta-hotties. But in the end, Santos cooked up something truly special. A video message from an absolute club legend. There's no one bigger. They gave him a message from the great Pele himself. Now, I know what you're thinking. Pele's been dead for 2 years.
It was Pele and Pat Rice, arm in arm.
At the pearly gates.
Neymar, you must come home.
Well, yeah, he is indeed no longer with us. However, we live in the age of artificial intelligence. And so the bigwigs at Santos got together with some tech whizzes, and they cooked up this video in which Pele gives Neymar a list of reasons why he should come home. Unfortunately, no one's published the video, so I can't provide it to you. But I like to imagine that it's like actually quite shit. It's just like videos of Pele with his mouth moving, and like the Santos president being like, Neymar, bom dia, is Pele, come back to Santos.
It's like the CGI from like the late 90s. It's just really shit.
It's basically like ventriloquism.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen it myself. But I also, like, is that ethical? I can't imagine Pele's family are that happy.
Yeah.
Like, what, our dad is now just being used to like lure
Is this
footballers.
the first time they've done that, or do they do it for all sort of youth team players? They just have sort of a Pele algorithm built into.
They've got
their
wheel
video.
Pele out again.
Yeah.
Also, like, did Pele do enough like TV and radio that you can recreate him with his voice? Probably.
Probably
Did those
later
Viagra
on.
adverts? How long before they're fucking using an AI Pele? Yeah. If to me it feels a bit like those, you know, those Twitter scammers who are like, "Hello, this is Jose Mourinho. Can you send me $500? I'm with Cristiano Ronaldo." But anyway, however shit this video was, and possibly unethical, apparently Neymar's dad was really won over by it. He was said to be, quote, very emotional after watching the video. And we know how hard he is to impress. So, it's really something. Actually, it's not that uncommon in Brazilian football. It's a bit of a thing there because Adriano, you know, the like sort of, I mean, I mainly think of him as that like wonder kid who could kick it fucking hard. And then his career went off the rails when his dad died. It was like a big factor in how his career went was his dad died, and then he went pretty crazy away from the pitch, and his football suffered. Anyway, Adriano has just retired. He's about 39. He was playing in Brazil, and after his final game, he was standing on the pitch. You know, there's like a presentation, and suddenly the club played a video message from his dad, who's been dead for about 15 years, and it was obviously AI, and it was him like giving his son, and obviously Adriano was like very emotional because firstly, it's your last game of football ever. Secondly, it's your dead dad talking. There's 50,000 people watching. I mean, for anyone, losing your father is the, you know, worst thing imaginable. But the fact that it was also such a big factor in like how his football career didn't really work out, it's pretty mental.
That is, and also just turning that into a spectacle for a stadium of like 50,000 people.
Yeah.
That's, I feel like that would be quite scarring.
Yeah, but do you think they told him about it beforehand?
I don't know.
It's a bit much.
Yeah, he's just running around saying, he's alive. Is he alive? After all these years.
Your first thought wouldn't be AI, unless
Yeah.
maybe the AI is really shit. And again, it's just like the stadium announcer on the mic, really echoey. Can hear music in the background.
Yeah.
It's pretty mental, but I guess it's a standard.
Is that a standard Brazilian football thing?
Apparently so. Yeah. Very, very odd. Anyway, the Pele one seems to work. So, yeah. I wonder what Pele said to Neymar. Just like, come back.
Yeah, come back.
Neymar's actually been doing some quite good interviews recently. He's become quite candid. So he did an interview where, everyone always said he left Barcelona for PSG for money. He was basically like, yeah, I did. He said it wasn't football reasons, it was personal reasons, money, and there were loads of Brazilians there who he's mates with, and he just wanted to play with his mates.
I respect it when players are just
Same.
shameless about. It's like, yeah, I moved here for money. Like, fair enough. Like,
Yeah.
that's why people work.
Yeah, like Odio Nigalo when he left Man United and went to Saudi, and everyone was joining Saudi and being like, no, it's a great league, and he goes, I would not have come here if it wasn't for the money. That's the only reason
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, I don't want to progress football in the Gulf. Like,
Weirdly, no one's heard from him since. But I quite rate, and also Neymar, it's like, clearly that whole thing is why he never quite got to the Messi level. Like, very talented, but not as driven. But I quite like that we've got some footballers like that. Do you know, like, the
Yeah.
Upshot's obviously all about celebrating those guys. And the honesty's good. I know people shit on Neymar, and we take this out of him a lot, but I think that's good.
yeah, maybe he's entering a new age of frankness.
Yeah. He also actually he talked about Mbappe and why Mbappe sort of fell out with PSG, and apparently it was all about Messi's arrival. He basically, but you think it's going to be that Mbappe was jealous that Messi was suddenly the main man on the pitch and at the club, but actually apparently Mbappe was just jealous that Messi was friends with Neymar. So he said, like, me and Mbappe used to have dinner at my house all the time. We had some good years of partnership, but after Messi came, he was a little jealous. He didn't want to split me with anyone, and then there were some fights, a change in behaviour. Quite like that, but actually Mbappe was just jealous of.
It's like when your best friend gets a new best friend.
Yeah,
It's
it's tough.
got to be digging up more schoolyard trauma.
Yeah, what happens, Zach? Tell me. The one guy who understood me.
So as a maritime police officer in the sleepy Portuguese fishing village of Caxinas, you're used to a pretty leisurely pace of life. Usually you're spending your time retrieving lost parasols or breaking up scraps between salty sea dogs that's outside the local taverna. So when the cops spotted a hooded figure creeping around the docks in the dead of night, cracking open crates, they knew they had a big case on their hands. And they almost spat out their bacalao brass when they recognised the culprit as none other than Real Madrid and Portugal legend Fabio Contrao. So you're probably wondering what Fabio's illicit contraband was. Was it drugs? Was it illegal arms shipments? Counterfeit custard tarts? Actually, it turned out it was 12 tanks filled with a ton of live spider crabs.
They're illegal.
They're not illegal, but I think. Sorry to suck the joy out of the story.
Yes.
He had the wrong permit. The wrong permit. So reporters tracked him down to this warehouse where he was storing these illicit crabs, and he had a really angry confrontation with them, which we've got a clip of. It's in Portuguese, but I'll play it anyway.
Calma, não podes mesmo erro. Não filmes a minha casa. Não filmes a minha casa.
Não estamos autorizados.
Não filmes a minha casa.
Não estamos autorizados.
Está a filmar com os pés. Não filmes a minha casa, pá.
Does he live there? Because he's saying, don't come to my house.
Yeah, he's like, don't go
film
come to my house. I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't look like a house. It looks very much like a dock.
It doesn't look
warehouse.
like where I would expect.
No, I'm wondering
Real
whether
Madrid
my
legend.
yeah.
Is he a legend?
52 caps for Portugal, which I would say makes him a Portugal legend.
Okay, yeah. It's 50
Real
caps the
Madrid.
threshold. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Quincy Promise, famously.
Dutch
Dutch legend.
legend.
Yeah, but he's saying, don't film my house, isn't he?
Yeah, he is saying that, but I'm wondering if, as a fisherman, your warehouse is your home.
Yeah.
Deep down. He does have quite a fisherman look now. He's got like beanie pulled down over, like just about peering out from underneath his beanie, like big warm jacket on.
Yeah, and he's from a family of fishermen. isn't he?
Yeah. So the less exciting side to the story is that he does in reality actually run like a legit fishing company, and I think he basically didn't have the correct permits for this catch. You are familiar with Article 27.4 of the EU Commercial Fishing Code, I'm sure. Yeah, so
Didn't have the correct stamp on his form.
yes.
Was it minor administrative error?
I think it actually does get even more boring. It was like 700 kilos of it was he didn't have the correct selling permit or something. He was allowed to fish it. Anyway,
Obviously, there are certain tariffs applied in that region that he's failed to.
obviously you got your state and your federal tariffs.
You got your excise duties.
Yeah.
EU fisheries subsidies. I could go all day on this. But while we're on the point then, so what happens to a fucking ton of spider crab?
I don't
if
know.
you
So they've been confiscated now, and they were going to decide whether they get destroyed or sold, I guess. Or
Destroyed.
Destroyed
Oh,
seems
big
harsh.
waste. That sort of defeats the whole point.
Yeah.
You know what the EU are like, though. A ton sounds like a lot. It actually reminds me, I've got a friend whose job is shipping animals around the world for like, I think the purposes are generally ethical, although it doesn't sound like it.
For like a traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah, it's like getting a rhino onto a plane. It's like flights and boats and stuff.
Okay.
Interesting job. But he told me about a competitor who was shipping a ton of flamingos, and they forgot to leave the air hole open, and they died.
Oh,
and so
that's tragic.
Awful. The flight landed, and there was just the guy cracked open the crate, and there was a ton of dead flamingo. Like, what do you do with that?
Incinerate them.
Yeah.
Just open this. Oh, no, it's not mine actually. Yeah, no, I think it's the other crate was mine.
Just don't show up. I think the job is more ethical than I made it sound.
So
Animals need to be transported sometime.
for what? For zoos and stuff.
No, like for medical treatment, I think. I don't know. You know, maybe
Obviously, you just take off the horn, and then that is
be made into
an
ornaments.
effective- Yeah, I reckon he deals with some unsavoury characters shipping.
I'll ask him.
exotic
I don't think he
animals.
does, but I appreciate how it sounds.
Yeah,
But Fabio Coentrao looked like he was a criminal mastermind rather than a bloke who just like forgot to staple two pages. While we're talking legends of the game, you will no doubt remember Brazilian striker Davison from his 8-game loan stint at FC Cole
How
in
could I forget
2015.
it? Yeah.
So Davison, he's like one of those Brazilian players who he came to Europe, but he never really made it. He had a few loan spells in Spain and in the Bundesliga, and then he went back to Brazil, where he's actually most known for being sort of like the biggest shithouse in the game. There's the most famous moment is during the Copa Libertadores final. There's this clip of him. He's basically like chatting to the referee, like really jokey, and the ref just, as Davison walks off, he gives him like a friendly pat on the back, and Davison dives like he's been shot.
Levantate, le dice, ahí te pasó. Pero es genial. Davison.
Do you think he thought that it was a different player that had hit him?
Yes, and what's
And
the
he-
point
like,
of diving with the ref?
what's the end game?
I was thinking
here?
maybe time wasting because I think it's
Yeah,
injury
could
time
be.
and they're going to win, but still very funny. And he's sort of, that's what he's known as like this sort of like all-time kind of joker viral star. Not exactly many games or goals in his career, but a lot of fun. And actually it's not just his gaffer who's looking for a bit more from the 33-year-old as he enters his autumn years. So Davison's wife, Karina, is keeping a very keen eye on one key statistic: his shagging numbers. Last week, Karina posted a photo of a calendar of 2024, and she'd marked every day where the pair of them had shagged with a red heart, which is pretty psychotic behaviour,
Yeah.
I think.
Are they trying to get pregnant or something? Is that...
No, I don't think so, because the shags aren't, when you're trying to get pregnant, it's like there's a key week each month, right? But they're quite spread out. I know some of them are like really faint hearts, some are really dark, and then a couple of them have the letter A on them, which I'll let you use your imagination of what that might mean. And then
Why are you tracking this?
And then one of them's crossed out really aggressively, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe he suffered from a bit of John
away.
Terry, got into some trouble, as Shalimar Wimble would call it. Anyway, I counted the hearts because I've got literally nothing better to do, and this is my job. And they clocked up 73 shags, which is 1.4 a week, and
That's good.
quite respectable for a 33-year-old. I say as a 35-year-old. But apparently Karina did not agree because she posted this photo with a caption that said, "My goal is to multiply love. Goodbye 2024." Which is quite a passive-aggressive dig.
Yeah. So she's saying he needs to up his game.
Up your fucking... I think it's basically saying, yeah, you didn't shag me enough. I sort of imagine it on New Year's Eve, they were sat around a dinner table with friends and everyone's going around discussing their resolutions. And, you know, one guy's like, "Oh, I'm going to get fit in 2025. Another's going to give up smoking. And they come around to Karina and she's like, takes a huge swig of rosé and it's like, "My resolution is for that useless tosser over there to shag me a bit more. Do you think you can do that?"
Is that too much to ask?
And he's just like, "Oh, God." Looking at his
Whips
feet.
out the calendar onto the table, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they're perfectly good numbers.
Yeah, I would respect that.
And I do. Wouldn't get him into Diego Simeone's team. You know, we've talked about this before on the pod, that he was on a Spanish chat show and they told him that the average Spaniard shags once a week, which must exclude the celibate. But anyway, average once a week. And Diego Simeone gasped in shock. And then he goes, "Yeah, with 4 times a month, you're not allowed in my team." And then they asked him, like, "How much do you need your players to shag?" And he said 15 times a month.
15?
Yeah, which is double what
That is-
Davison's clocking.
That's
It's 3 a week, isn't it?
that's abusive.
It's too much.
Wasn't there who was it? Antonio Conte who gave his players instructions on how to shag. It was like, you can shag, but you must be on the bottom.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
it
I
was
don't
like-
want you tiring yourself
Yeah,
out.
it was like women must be on top.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the other rules were.
I think you'd get on well with Davison's
Karina,
wife,
the lovely Karina.
Yeah.
She sounds
Maybe he can get her in as a data analyst.
Yeah. Isn't like the Acardis are a bit like this as well? There was some like mad demand.
Yeah, they shag like 3 times a day or
That's,
something.
that's,
That's too much.
that's sickening.
It's not fun anymore.
I'd actually go further and ban that.
So I've got an update for you about Juan Bernabe, the Lazio Eagle handler we were talking about last week, who was sacked by the club after posting pictures of his new prosthetic penis on Instagram. So it's now emerged that Lazio have also sacked the doctor who performed the procedure. So the club owner, Claudio Letito, came out and said that the doctor was fired at the speed of light for violating Lazio's code of ethics, which require behaviour that reflects the true values of sport. Seems very sort of high and mighty for a dick extension. So Gabriella, who's the doctor, has denied that he was ever actually employed by the club, which is slightly odd because his LinkedIn page lists his job title as social doctor at SS Lazio.
What's a social doctor?
Social, I guess he's helping his players with their social lives, which in a way he is. The byline for his LinkedIn also says that he's the first surgeon to perform a dick implant in Italy, which also reveals that up until last week, Lazio had a dick implant specialist on the books.
Yeah, by sacking him, surely they're revealing that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he did do other jobs around the place. I hope so. I like the idea of him last week sending in a €50,000 invoice, and they assumed that was for reconstructing Pedro's meniscus, and it turns out it was actually giving their eagle handler a bionic cock.
1 times new dick.
Yeah.
I guess he'll do any dick-related matter around the club.
Yeah, I
whatever
guess
that
so.
might
Yeah.
entail. Is that basically what?
Yeah, maybe it's difficult to know. I guess he did do other operations, but you know, he has his field of excellence, and
Yeah, I guess
it would be loath of them to waste those talents.
Yeah, modern football, you've got a specialist for everything.
Yeah.
You've got your throw-in coach and your dick doctor.
Your dick doctor, yeah. So at the weekend, fans of Lazio's crosstown rivals Roma unveiled a banner that read "Juan tiene duro," which translates as "Juan stay hard." I think it possibly is like a sort of dual meaning. It means like Juan stay strong,
Yeah.
but like the literal translation, or it's sort of a double entendre in Italy. Stay
Really
stay
good one,
hard.
actually.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
That's one of the better banners I've seen recently.
Yeah. Yeah. We also actually had an email from our medical specialist. So you might remember on our when we did this story last week, we read out a possibly too graphic description of what a prosthetic penis operation looks like that came from a guy who got in touch with us saying, "Can I be your medical correspondent?" He has emailed in again with a clarification, which I should pass on. So he said, "Cheers for the mention. To clarify, I have not specialised in dicks, nor do I intend on this. I should have made this clear at the time. For future reference, please don't full name me on the pod/email. I'm not too sure of the implications for my future practice, but my gut instinct says this isn't the best." So going forward, we will of course be using an anonymised abbreviation of his name, and just like to offer our apologies to Dr. M. West. Sorry, no, that's too obvious. Dr. Matthew W. For that, and we won't mention your full name again on this podcast.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with specialising in dicks.
No.
It took Gabriele Antonini to the top of football. Don't knock it. I think that's all we got time for, isn't it? No. I actually someone. I apologies if I've got your name wrong, but Tom Allen, I think, messaged us in, assuming you want to be named. Some listeners apparently don't want to be, but you know,
T. Allen.
Sorry, Tom A was. We were talking about like. You claim the internet is a more important invention than the wheel, which is fundamental. I would uninvent the internet if I could.
I think once we launch a Patreon, we can have an episode where we debate this.
I think only you and Luke Sayers are putting the internet. Anyway, apparently in 1994 there was a public poll of the greatest invention.
Oh, this is a great fact.
Since the 90s or something.
Yeah,
and the internet came second because in first place was the Guinness widget. That keeps it creamy. Is that just in the canned Guinness? I think so.
Yeah, the canned Guinness. That was invention of the year. I think it was 91. I think it was earlier 90s and that.
Just picked the internet.
Yeah,
I agree. And then the wheel next. Keep the letters coming. Always enjoy them. Thanks a lot, Zach.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks for listening. We will see you on Tuesday, where we have part 1 of Eric Cantona, and it is an absolute favourite of an episode.
It is a good one.
Plenty to enjoy in there. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot for listening.
Cheers.